In 2016, the World Economic Forum published a video. It was titled 8 Predictions for the World in 2030. The video was later deleted, but not before the internet saved it, and one prediction has haunted every conversation about the future since. 4 words: you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. Now, you might have heard this before, you might have dismissed it, but here is what I need you to do right now. Before this video is over, I need you to look at the world around you in 2026, at the wars, at the energy crisis, at the digital currencies being rolled out in 134 countries, at the digital ID systems being mandated across Europe, at the cash, quietly, slowly, disappearing. And I need you to ask yourself one question. Not, is this a conspiracy? But, how much of this was already written down? Because here's the thing about Agenda 2030. It's not a secret. It's published on the United Nations website, in full, for anyone willing to read it. The conspiracy isn't that it's hidden. The conspiracy is that nobody told you what it actually means. Welcome to the simulation files. The file is now open. Question reality. Explore the impossible. In September 2015, 193 world leaders gathered at the United Nations in New York. Every major nation on Earth was in that room. And together, without a single public vote in a single democratic election, they signed a document. The document was called Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Its preamble opens with these words: "This agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity." It contains 17 goals and 169 specific targets to be achieved by the year 2030. The official goals sound unobjectionable: end poverty, end hunger, clean energy, gender equality, climate action. Nobody disagrees with ending poverty. Nobody argues against clean water. And that is exactly what makes this so difficult to question. Because what happens when you embed something uncomfortable inside something undeniably good? What happens when the architecture of control is built inside the scaffolding of compassion? The goals themselves may be genuine, but the mechanisms, the specific, documented, publicly stated mechanisms for achieving them, are where this story gets uncomfortable, and we are now 4 years from the deadline, which means the implementation isn't coming. It's already here. Here is the piece of the puzzle most people miss. The United Nations has 193 member governments. But governments don't implement plans alone. They need funding, infrastructure, corporate partnerships, technology, and that is exactly where the World Economic Forum steps in. In June 2019, the UN and the WEF signed what they called a Strategic Partnership Framework. It was not a secret. It was announced publicly. The WEF's stated mission is, in their own words, to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. And its membership, 1,000 of the world's largest corporations, Amazon, BlackRock, Google, Microsoft, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Open Society Foundations, all of them, partners, all of them, committed to what the WEF calls improving the state of the world. Now, the question is not whether these companies are evil. The question is whether you voted for them to redesign civilization. Because Klaus Schwab, the founder of the WEF, a man with an estimated net worth of 11.2 billion, made a statement that was captured on video. He said about the penetration of WEF-trained leaders into world governments, and I want you to hear this carefully. We penetrate the cabinets. I know that half this cabinet, even more than half, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. He was talking about Canada, but he added, it's true in Argentina, it's true in France, now with the president, who is a young global leader. The WEF runs a program called Young Global Leaders. It has graduated over 1,400 leaders across 120 countries. Alumni include Emmanuel Macron, Jacinda Ardern, Pete Buttigieg, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. These are not fringe claims. These names are on the WEF's own published lists. So the question becomes, when 193 governments sign a document agreeing to transform the world by 2030, and the founder of the organization advising those governments says his people are inside those cabinets. Is that democratic governance? Or is that something else? In March 2020, the world stopped. Governments locked their populations inside, businesses closed, schools closed, churches closed, and within weeks, the World Economic Forum published an article on its official website, the title, COVID-19, The Great Reset. The article stated, directly, that the pandemic offered, quote, a unique window of opportunity to shape the recovery, to reset the global economy in alignment with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. A unique window of opportunity. Those words, sitting there, officially, publicly, on the WEF website, not a conspiracy theory, the WEF's own language. And then, world leaders started repeating a phrase, almost word for word. Build back better. Justin Trudeau said it at the UN General Assembly in September 2020, explicitly linking it to Agenda 2030. Joe Biden ran on it as a campaign slogan. Boris Johnson used it in the UK. The same phrase, the same week, across multiple countries, simultaneously. And the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, one of the world's most respected analytical organizations, noted that the Great Reset conspiracy theory emerged as one of the most viral narratives of 2020, precisely because, in their words, it was less a singular conspiracy theory and more, quote, a conspiracy smoothie, meaning it blended partial truths, real phrases, real documents, real names, real meetings, mixed with fear. And that mixture is far harder to dismiss than pure fiction, because you can debunk a lie. You cannot debunk a real document. Now we get to the part that should concern every person watching this, regardless of your politics, regardless of what you believe about the WEF, regardless of what you think about conspiracy theories. This part is just numbers. Let's talk about money. Right now, in June 2026, 146 countries and currency unions, representing over 98% of global GDP, are exploring a central bank digital currency. 146 out of roughly 195 countries on Earth. China's digital yuan has already processed more than 3.4 billion transactions, worth roughly 16.7 trillion renminbi, approximately $2.3 trillion, as of December 2025. And by 2024, physical cash had dropped to just 13% of all in-person transactions globally, down from 28% in 2017. Let me say that again. In less than a decade, cash went from more than 1 in 4 transactions to just 1 in 8, and projections say it will drop to 1 in 10 by the end of 2026. Now, here is the question nobody wants to ask in polite company. What happens when cash is gone? Because right now, if you want to buy something anonymously, you can. You use cash. Nobody tracks it. Nobody controls it. Nobody can turn it off. But a central bank digital currency. With a CBDC, the government could track every purchase you make, the gun store you visit, the church or political cause you donate to, the books you buy, the medication you need, and the out-of-state travel you undertake. No more private transactions, no more anonymous charity, no more financial independence. And the feature openly discussed in banking journals and academic papers is programmable money. A CBDC could theoretically be programmed with expiration dates or restricted to approved vendors. Imagine that. Money that expires if you don't spend it fast enough. Money that cannot buy certain things. Money that can be turned off. Not hypothetical, not science fiction. The technology exists today. China is already using it. China's digital yuan is already being used for social control experiments, and the European Central Bank is expected to decide whether to launch a digital euro, with pilot programs potentially starting as early as 2026. Now, here is the detail that connects everything. The UK announced a digital ID system, without which, according to multiple sources, you will not have the legal right to work. Digital ID, digital currency. No cash. Put those 3 things together. And what do you have? A system where every transaction you make, every place you go, everything you buy, every belief you hold that costs money to express, is visible, traceable, and in theory, switchable off, by whoever holds the key. Let's talk about where you live. The 15-minute city is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of Agenda 2030. The official version sounds reasonable. Design cities so that everything you need is within a 15-minute walk or bike ride. Less pollution, less traffic, better community. Who could object to that? But here is where the theory fractures into something darker. Critics have raised a pointed question. What happens when a 15-minute city isn't just designed for convenience? What happens when, combined with digital IDs, programmable currency, and carbon credit systems, the neighborhood becomes the boundary? SDG 11 has been criticized for plans that accusers say would restrict citizens' freedom to travel outside their neighborhoods. Now, the official response is that this is a misinterpretation. That 15-minute cities are about adding amenities, not restricting movement. And that may well be true. But here is the uncomfortable reality of living in 2026. Oxford, England sparked nationwide protests when residents discovered they could be fined for driving in certain zones. The local government insisted it was about emissions, protesters said it was about control, and the line between those two things has never felt thinner, because when you combine a system that monitors where you go with money that knows what you buy, and cities designed around defined perimeters, the word that forms in the mind is not sustainable. The word is containment. Now let's look at what's happening right now, in May 2026, and ask one simple question. Does the world look like it's moving toward Agenda 2030 or away from it? Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz. Oil hits $113 a barrel. Energy supply fractures globally. Agenda 2030 Goal 7. Affordable and clean energy. The UN Secretary-General posts in March 2026. Quote, "There are no price spikes for sunlight and no embargoes on the wind." The European Commission responds with an $86 billion clean energy strategy. An oil crisis accelerates the energy transition, exactly as the framework predicted, exactly as the pressure was designed to create. 45 oil refineries explode in 45 days. Aging fossil fuel infrastructure is destroyed. Nobody builds it back. Instead, the language of green recovery fills the headlines. Missing scientists, 14 of them, from NASA, MIT, Caltech, and the Pentagon. Scientists working on propulsion, fusion, advanced materials. The very technologies that could either accelerate the transition or provide an alternative to it. Dead or vanished. A war in the Middle East reshapes the global energy map. The UAE exits OPEC, aligns with Washington, positions itself for the post-oil transition. And through all of it, the digital infrastructure keeps expanding. The cash keeps disappearing. The IDs keep becoming mandatory. The currencies keep going digital. The cities keep being redesigned. Is this chaos or is this convergence? Because here is what the architects of Agenda 2030 openly say. The progress of the 2030 Agenda has fallen far short of expectations. And on this fertile soil, conspiracy theories sprout that see multilateralism as the origin of today's problems. Meaning, they know the timeline is behind schedule. And when a plan is behind schedule, the people running it don't slow down. They accelerate. Here is what I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you that every world leader is part of a secret cabal. I'm not telling you that Agenda 2030 is a manifesto for enslavement. I'm not telling you to put on a tin-foil hat and move to the woods. Here is what I'm telling you. A real document signed by 193 governments calls for a fundamental transformation of the global economy, energy system, food system, and urban infrastructure by 2030. A real organization, whose members include the largest corporations on Earth, has a signed strategic partnership with the United Nations to implement that transformation. Real digital currencies being built by real central banks have the documented technical capability to track, restrict, and expire your money. Real digital ID systems, already being mandated in real countries, tie your identity to your ability to work, travel, and transact. Real cities in real countries are being redesigned around 15-minute perimeters, and real cash, the one financial tool that has always been anonymous, is quietly, relentlessly disappearing. None of that is conspiracy. Every word of it is sourced. The conspiracy, if there is one, is not in the documents. It's in the gap between what the documents say and what we were told they mean. It's in the decisions made in rooms we were never invited into, by people we never elected, on timelines we were never shown. 4 years from now, it's 2030. The deadline arrives. And the only question that matters, is whether the world you wake up in that morning is the world you chose, or the world that was chosen for you. The simulation is running, and the clock is almost out of time. If you made it this far, you've just done something most people refuse to do. You sat with discomfort. You followed the thread. You asked the question instead of scrolling past it. That's not nothing. That's exactly what this channel exists for. The simulation files doesn't give you conclusions. We give you the file. We give you the sources. We give you the questions nobody is asking, on the channels that depend on the system to stay quiet. And then we leave the answer to you. Because the day you stop asking questions is the day the simulation wins. Subscribe to the simulation files. Hit the bell. Every file matters. Drop in the comments right now. Do you think Agenda 2030 is a genuine plan to help the world, or the most ambitious power transfer in human history? There is no wrong answer. Only the one you're willing to say out loud. Enter the simulation. The next file is already loading.